Imagine trading city chaos for countryside peace, only to face an HOA tyrant worse than any urban nightmare. I'm James, and my dream property became a war zone when Karen installed spike strips on my private driveway. But her power trip backfired spectacularly. Stick around to discover the one legal move that left her humiliated, handcuffed, and permanently dethroned. Wait until you see the sheriff's face at 12:26 when we dropped the hammer. Moving out to a quiet rural area was supposed to be a fresh start. No more noisy neighbors, no cramped driveways, no ridiculous rules telling me what color I could paint my house. Just peace, quiet, and land as far as the eye could see. That was until I found out the hard way that even in the middle of nowhere, HOA Karen finds a way to make your life miserable. The first time I met her, she showed up unannounced on my property, clipboard in hand, with a tight scowl that looked like it had been permanently etched onto her face. "This road is for residents only," she snapped, glaring at my truck as I pulled into my driveway. "You can't just drive on it like it's your personal highway." I raised an eyebrow. "I live here. This is my driveway, my property, my land." Karen's lips pursed into a thin line. "All roads in this community fall under HOA jurisdiction. You need to submit a request for access like everyone else." I let out a short laugh, thinking she had to be joking. This road was built by the previous owner. It's private property. The HOA has nothing to do with it. "That's not what our community guidelines state," she said, tapping her clipboard. "If you don't comply, we'll have to take further action." I waved her off, slamming my truck door behind me. Big mistake. The next morning, I walked outside and immediately noticed something was off. My truck sat in the driveway completely normal, but a few feet down the road, gleaming metal spikes jutted out from the gravel. I froze mid-step. Glinting steel teeth stared back from my own driveway. My hands shook, filming the sabotage. "You want war, Karen?" I hissed, documenting every inch of the trap. These weren't cheap either. Professional-grade tire shredders bolted straight into the dirt, the kind law enforcement might use to stop a high-speed chase. My blood boiled. This wasn't just petty HOA nonsense. This was straight-up illegal. I pulled out my phone, snapping multiple pictures from every angle, making sure I had undeniable proof of what she had done. If she thought she could get away with this, she had severely underestimated me. I stormed toward her mansion, fists clenched. What happened next would redefine petty revenge. I hammered on her door until my knuckles hurt. A moment later, she opened it with a smug smile, sipping a cup of coffee like she had all the time in the world. "Can I help you?" she asked sweetly. "Are you out of your mind?" I shouted, pointing back at my driveway. "You put spike strips in front of my house." She took a slow sip of her coffee. "Well, I did warn you. It's criminal damage to property, not to mention it's completely unsafe. What if an emergency vehicle needed to get through?" I snapped. Karen shrugged. "Rules are rules. If you have an issue, take it up with the HOA board." I clenched my fists, trying not to explode on the spot. "Oh, don't worry. I'll take it up with someone, just not the board." Because what Karen didn't know, I had a lawyer on speed dial. Before I did anything else, I took pictures and videos of everything. The placement of the strips, the bolts in the ground, even the smug look on Karen's face as she watched me document the damage. I made sure to capture every detail, including how the strips were bolted deep into the ground, meaning this wasn't some cheap prank. This was intentional sabotage. Then I made one phone call. Matt's voice turned ice cold. "She just committed 3 felonies. Let's bury her." "You're kidding me," my lawyer Matt said as I sent him the photos. "I wish I was. Can she actually get away with this?" He let out a sharp laugh. "Not a chance. This is property damage, reckless endangerment, and illegal road obstruction. You want me to handle it?" "Absolutely. Make her regret every second of it." The next day, Karen got a very official-looking letter delivered straight to her door. The kind that made it clear this wasn't just an HOA issue. This was a lawsuit waiting to happen. When Karen opened that letter, her shrill gasp echoed down the block. Finally, the bully felt fear. By the time I got home, she was already outside, ripping the strips out of the dirt, grumbling under her breath. But she wasn't going to give up that easily. Because Karen, she was just getting started. That night, I heard a loud bang from outside. I grabbed a flashlight and walked out onto my porch. My truck was untouched, but as I shined the beam toward the driveway, my stomach dropped. The spike strips were back. Karen had reinstalled them, but this time she had reinforced them with concrete. I couldn't believe my eyes. The sheer level of petty dedication was beyond anything I had expected. I took more photos, making sure to get every angle before heading back inside and dialing Matt again. "We have a problem." "What now?" he groaned. "She put them back, but worse." There was a long silence before Matt sighed heavily. "All right, we're taking this to court. Get me every single detail. She just made this 10 times worse for herself." I grinned. Karen had just signed her own downfall. But Karen's midnight spike strip encore? Just the opening act. By sunrise, she'd make a mistake that even the HOA couldn't ignore. The next morning, I woke up to find Karen standing at the edge of my property, arms crossed, smug as ever. She wasn't even trying to hide this time. The spike strips were still concreted into my driveway, and she had the nerve to be waiting for my reaction. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my cool as I walked toward her. "Karen, I don't know what fantasy world you live in, but this is private property. You can't just keep sabotaging my driveway." She smirked. "I warned you before. Community rules apply to everyone. The board voted on this. We can't have outsiders cutting through our roads without permission." I shook my head, pulling out my phone. "I don't need permission. This is my land. You and your little HOA club have no authority over it. And since you refuse to listen, maybe it's time someone bigger than me gets involved." Karen's smile faltered for the first time. "Oh, and who exactly do you think is going to stop me?" I grinned. "You're about to find out." Within the hour, Matt was on site with a sheriff's deputy. Karen's smug expression vanished the moment the uniformed officer stepped out of his vehicle. "Excuse me, ma'am," the deputy said, nodding toward the embedded spike strips. "We received a complaint about illegal road hazards on private property. Care to explain?" Karen stiffened. "This is a community road. The HOA has every right to—" Matt cut her off, holding up a stack of legal documents. "No, they don't. My client owns this land outright, and according to county property records, this driveway is not under HOA jurisdiction. Installing spike strips here is not only illegal, it's considered reckless endangerment. That's a criminal offense." Karen's face lost all color. "You can't be serious. I was just—" The deputy sighed. "Ma'am, I need you to remove those strips immediately, or we will have to escalate this further." She stammered. "You can't just—" "Failure to comply could result in criminal charges," Matt added. "You're looking at hefty fines, a lawsuit, and potential arrest. Your call." Karen opened and closed her mouth like she was trying to find the right words, but for the first time ever, she was speechless. Under the watchful eye of the deputy, Karen was forced to dig out the spike strips with her own hands. She was fuming, red-faced, sweaty, and absolutely humiliated. Every neighbor within eyesight had come out to watch, whispering to one another as the woman who once acted like she owned the entire neighborhood was now struggling to undo her own mess. And me? I stood back, arms crossed, enjoying every second. But Karen wasn't done. Not by a long shot. Later that evening, as I sat on my porch enjoying a well-earned beer, I saw Karen storming down the street with a clipboard, knocking on doors. She was gathering signatures. By the next morning, an emergency HOA meeting was called. The meeting hall was packed. Karen stood at the front, her eyes burning with fury, flipping through stacks of paper. "This man is a threat to our community," she declared. "He has no respect for our rules, no respect for the values that keep this neighborhood safe and orderly. He's bringing in lawyers and law enforcement to bully us. If we allow this, what's next? Chaos, lawlessness." Someone cleared their throat. It was the HOA president. "Karen," he said slowly, "are you seriously suggesting that you are the victim here? After illegally installing spike strips on someone's driveway?" Karen huffed. "It was necessary to enforce community standards. We cannot allow outsiders—" "Outsiders," another resident cut in. "He lives here. You're abusing your power, Karen." The president continued, "And quite frankly, we're tired of it." Karen looked around, expecting support, but all she got were blank stares. That's when she realized she had lost. By the end of the meeting, Karen was stripped of her HOA authority. No more clipboard, no more fines, no more community votes. She was done, but Karen doesn't go down without a fight. That night, I heard shouting outside. I flicked on my porch light, stepping out to see Karen standing in the middle of the street yelling at my neighbors. She was furious. "You're all turning against me after everything I've done for this community. You think this outsider belongs here?" she shrieked. One of the neighbors, an older man named Frank, shook his head. "Karen, you've made this place miserable for years. We're done." Karen's face twisted into something ugly. But then she spotted me standing on my porch, and she snapped. She stormed toward my property, fists clenched. "This isn't over. You think you can come in here and ruin everything? I'll make sure you regret it." I crossed my arms. "You're trespassing, Karen. Walk away before you make things worse," she sneered. "Oh, you haven't seen worse yet." And with that, she stormed off into the night. But I had the sinking feeling that she wasn't bluffing. Karen had lost her power, but she wasn't done fighting. The next morning, I woke up to find my truck missing. I blinked, thinking maybe I was seeing things, but no. The driveway was empty, the same driveway where I had parked it last night. I ran inside, checked my security cameras, and there it was. Karen, in the dead of night, standing beside a tow truck, smirking as my truck was hauled away. I clenched my jaw. She had gone too far. I picked up my phone and dialed the sheriff directly. "Hey, I need to report a stolen vehicle, and I know exactly who took it." The response was immediate. "We'll handle it." Karen thought she was untouchable. She thought losing her HOA title wouldn't stop her. But what she didn't realize, I wasn't just going to let this go. The moment I saw the security footage of my truck being towed, I knew Karen had just made the biggest mistake of her life. I wasted no time. With the video evidence on my phone, I dialed the sheriff's office directly. "Hey, I need to report a stolen vehicle," I said, keeping my voice calm though my blood was boiling. "And I know exactly who took it." "We're sending a unit to you now," the officer said. "Stay put." I didn't have to wait long. Within 15 minutes, a patrol car pulled up to my driveway. It was the same deputy from before, the one who had made Karen remove the spike strips. He stepped out, already looking tired. "Let me guess," he sighed. "Karen?" "Karen," I confirmed, showing him the footage. "She had a tow truck take my truck in the middle of the night." He frowned, watching the video closely. "This is bad. She had no legal right to do this. Where do you think they took it?" I already had a suspicion. "There's a private impound lot about 5 miles from here. It's not city-run. If she used her HOA connections, that's probably where they put it." The deputy nodded. "All right, let's go get your truck back, and let's have a little talk with Karen while we're at it." We pulled up to the impound lot, and sure enough, there was my truck, parked behind a locked gate. The attendant paled when the deputy flashed his badge. "Truck's yours," he muttered, avoiding my stare. Karen's authority vanished faster than her fake smile. With my truck back in my possession, there was only one thing left to do. The deputy and I made a direct stop at Karen's house. She answered the door with a self-satisfied smirk, but when she saw the deputy standing beside me, the color drained from her face. "Karen," the deputy said, "we need to talk." She tried to play dumb. "Oh? About what?" I held up my phone, playing the security footage of her standing beside the tow truck as it hauled my vehicle away. "You stole my truck, Karen. That's grand theft auto." Her eyes widened, and for the first time she looked genuinely scared. "It wasn't theft. It was a community enforcement action. The HOA rules clearly state—" "The HOA has no authority over my property," I snapped. "You don't get to enforce anything. You committed a felony and now you're going to pay for it." The deputy stepped forward. "Karen, you're under arrest for vehicle theft. Turn around." Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "No! This is ridiculous. You can't do this." The deputy ignored her protests, cuffing her hands behind her back. "You have the right to remain silent." The entire neighborhood had come out to watch. People whispered, some even recording as the mighty Karen, the one who had tormented this community for years, was being led to a police car like a common criminal. I crossed my arms, watching her meltdown with a satisfied grin. "Told you this wasn't over, Karen," she thrashed as the deputy guided her toward the car. "You'll regret this. I'll get a lawyer. I'll sue." I leaned against my truck. "Good luck with that." "I already have a lawyer, and he's a lot better than yours." As the cuffs clicked, Karen rasped, "This isn't over." She was right. The real shock came 48 hours later. Karen was taken into custody, and in the days that followed, the HOA scrambled to distance themselves from her. Official statements were made. We do not condone the actions of Ms. Karen. The HOA had no involvement in the illegal towing incident. Within 2 days, the community held an emergency meeting. 5 other homeowners came forward with stories of Karen's reign of terror, illegal fines, threatened liens, even property damage. The board voted unanimously to ban her permanently from all HOA positions. But as the stories unfolded, I couldn't help but feel a pang of uncertainty. Had we all failed to see the signs earlier? Was it possible she had some reason behind her madness? What Karen never realized was that her power had always been an illusion, built on intimidation, not authority. One by one, her neighbors reclaimed their peace. Yet a part of me wondered if we were too harsh, too quick to judge without understanding the full story. As for me, my lawyer filed a civil suit against Karen personally. The settlement covered new security cameras, a private gate, and a reinforced driveway. Best of all, legal documents now clearly stated that my property was exempt from all HOA jurisdiction, permanently. Yet, even as I secured my victory, I couldn't shake the feeling of empathy for Karen. Could I have handled things differently? Karen eventually moved away, unable to face the community she once terrorized. I sometimes wonder if she's terrorizing another neighborhood somewhere. But wherever she is, I hope she remembers the lesson. Even the most powerful tyrant eventually meets their match. Still, was she merely a product of circumstances that we all contributed to in some way? The moral of this story? Know your rights, document everything, and never, ever underestimate someone who's willing to fight back. But another moral lingered in my thoughts. The complexity of human nature might demand more than just a fight, perhaps a deeper understanding. It didn't matter. Karen was gone, stripped of her HOA membership, hit with multiple charges, fined thousands in legal fees, and most importantly, no longer a problem in my life. I had won my driveway, clear and spike-free forever. But with the victory came a shadow of doubt about the path we all took to get there.